The survey vessel Tranquil Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of an uncharted solar system. Commander Velis stood at the center of the bridge, his 4 eyes scanning the main display as the ship's sensors began their work. He had been cataloging worlds for the Galactic Union for 37 cycles. He had seen frozen wastelands and burning hellscapes. He had documented gas giants and barren rocks. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. The system had 8 planets orbiting a medium-sized yellow star. Most were unremarkable. Gas giants in the outer regions. Rocky worlds too close to the star for comfortable habitation. But the third planet caught his attention immediately. It was blue and green and white, wrapped in a thick atmosphere that suggested liquid water on the surface. Velis felt a small flutter of excitement. Water worlds were rare. Habitable water worlds were even rarer. If this planet met the basic requirements, it could be worth billions in colonization rights. Junior Surveyor Calyx worked at the sensor station, her thin fingers dancing across the controls. She was young and eager, still amazed by every new discovery. Velis remembered feeling that way once, long ago. The first readings came through, and Calyx made a strange sound. Velis turned to look at her. Her scales had gone pale. "Something is wrong with the sensors," she said. "The readings cannot be correct." Velis walked over to her station and looked at the data himself. The atmospheric composition showed oxygen levels far beyond the normal range. Oxygen was corrosive. It destroyed organic tissue over time. Most civilized species lived in low-oxygen environments for good reason. "Run the diagnostic," Velis ordered. Calyx ran the diagnostic. The sensors were functioning perfectly. The planet really did have that much oxygen in its atmosphere. More data flowed in. The planet had a significant axial tilt, which meant extreme seasonal variations. Some regions would experience burning heat while others froze. The surface showed constant seismic activity. Volcanic eruptions were common. The magnetic field fluctuated in unpredictable patterns that would interfere with most technology. Then the biological sensors activated, and the bridge fell completely silent. Velis stared at the display. He had surveyed hundreds of worlds. He had never seen anything like this. The planet was covered in life. Not just simple organisms, but complex multicellular creatures in staggering variety. Millions of different species occupied every possible environment, and they were all trying to kill each other. Apex predators dominated every biome. Massive creatures with teeth and claws roamed the land. The oceans were filled with hunters that could swallow a shuttle whole. Even the smallest organisms were deadly. Microscopic life forms could invade a body and destroy it from within. Some diseases could kill within hours. The plant life was no better. Many species produced toxins that could stop a heart instantly. Others had developed physical defenses like thorns and spikes. Some plants actually ate animals, trapping them and dissolving them slowly. And then there was the weather. Velis watched the atmospheric data scroll past. Massive storm systems swept across the planet regularly. Some storms spanned thousands of kilometers and generated winds that could tear apart metal structures. Lightning struck the surface millions of times each day. Walls of water fell from the sky with enough force to cause flooding that reshaped the landscape. "Commander," Calyx whispered, "the classification algorithm has finished processing." She turned the display toward him. Velis read the result and felt his heart stop. Class-15 Deathworld. He had heard of such classifications, but only in theoretical discussions. Class-15 was the maximum danger rating. It meant that every possible environmental factor was hostile to life. It meant that survival on the surface would be measured in minutes, not hours. It meant that no intelligent species could possibly evolve under such conditions. The last, Class-15 Deathworld, had been discovered over 1,000 cycles ago. It was now a restricted zone, marked on every star chart as a place to avoid at all costs. Are we certain? Velith asked quietly. Kellex ran the algorithm again. The result was the same. Velith turned back to the main display. The blue and green world hung there, looking peaceful and beautiful from this distance. It was a lie. That world was a death trap. A nightmare wrapped in pretty colors. He was about to order the ship to move on when the communication officer made a startled noise. "Commander," the officer said, "I am detecting radio signals from the planet's surface." Velith turned slowly. "That is not possible. The signals are artificial," the officer continued. "Organized patterns. Multiple frequencies. They are definitely technological in origin." The bridge crew looked at each other in confusion. Radio signals meant technology. Technology meant intelligence. Intelligence meant a civilization, but nothing could survive on a Class-15 Deathworld. Nothing could evolve sapience in an environment that hostile. The mathematics simply did not allow for it. "Put the signals on speaker," Velith ordered. Static filled the bridge at first. Then fragments of sound began to emerge. Patterns that repeated. Structures that suggested language. And then, clearly and unmistakably, music. Someone was singing on that death world. Velith stood frozen as the impossible sound filled his bridge. Somewhere on that nightmare planet, in that toxic atmosphere, surrounded by predators and diseases and storms, intelligent beings were not just surviving. They were creating art. "We need to report this immediately," Velith said. His voice was barely a whisper. "The Galactic Council needs to know. Know what?" Kellex asked. Velith looked at the blue and green world on the display. A world that should have been lifeless. A world that should have killed anything that tried to live there. "That someone beat the odds," he said. "Someone is already hung." The first contact delegation arrived in the solar system. 6 standard weeks after Commander Veleth's report reached the Galactic Council. Ambassador Soreth of the Villani Collective led the mission. She had negotiated treaties with dozens of species across known space. She had walked into hostile situations and walked out with peace agreements. Nothing frightened her. At least. Nothing had frightened her until now. The delegation ship established orbit around the third planet. From space, the world looked almost inviting. Blue oceans sparkled under the yellow sun. White clouds drifted across green and brown landmasses. It could have been any garden world in the galaxy, but the sensor data told a different story. Soreth read the reports again and again, hoping to find some mistake. She found none. The beings on the surface had responded to their communication attempts with remarkable speed. They called themselves humans. They called their world Earth, and they seemed genuinely excited to meet visitors from the stars. Security. Chief Korax stood beside Soreth as they prepared for landing. He was a Braxian, bred for combat, nearly 3 meters tall with thick armored scales. He had fought in 6 wars and survived them all. His job was to keep the delegation safe. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "I must strongly advise against landing on that surface. The environmental data is beyond anything I have ever seen." Soreth nodded. She understood his concern. But first contact protocols were clear. They had to meet these humans face to face. The shuttle descended through the atmosphere, and Soreth felt the first hint of wrongness. The gravity was crushing. Her homeworld had about 2/3 of this pull. Every movement felt heavy and slow. Breathing became difficult even in the filtered cabin air. They landed at a facility the humans called Geneva, in a region they called Switzerland. The shuttle door opened, and Soreth stepped out into an alien nightmare. The light hit her first. The yellow star blazed overhead with painful intensity. Her secondary eyelids slammed shut automatically, and even then she had to squint. The radiation levels would cause cellular damage within hours without protection. Then the air. Even filtered through her mask, she could taste it. Thick with oxygen, heavy with moisture, and filled with life. Her medical scanner detected thousands of different microorganisms in every breath. Some of them could kill her species within days. Korax stumbled beside her. The massive warrior was having trouble standing in the heavy gravity. His armor systems were working overtime to compensate for the environmental assault. A group of humans walked toward them across an open field. They moved easily, comfortably, as if the gravity and light and toxic air were perfectly normal. Because for them, it was. The leader was a male with short brown hair and a wide smile. He wore simple clothing that left his skin exposed to the deadly sunlight. He extended his hand in what the briefing files identified as a greeting gesture. "Welcome to Earth," he said. "I am Daniel Carter. It is wonderful to meet you." Soreth forced herself to take his hand. His grip was firm and warm. She could feel the strength in his fingers, the density of his bones. This being had evolved in crushing gravity. Every cell in his body was built for survival. "I am Ambassador Soreth," she managed. "We are honored by your welcome." Daniel smiled even wider. He seemed completely unaware of how terrifying he was. He led them toward a building in the distance. Along the way, Soreth saw things that made her heart race with fear. A group of young humans ran across a grassy field, laughing and shouting. Children, playing outside in the unfiltered sunlight. Their bare feet touched ground that was teeming with dangerous organisms. A small furry creature ran past them, and one of the children scooped it up and held it close to her face. Soreth checked her scanner. The creature was a predator. Its teeth could tear through flesh. Its claws were sharp enough to open blood vessels. And this child was cuddling it like a toy. "That is what we call a dog," Daniel explained. "They are our companions. We have lived alongside them for thousands of years." Soreth nodded weakly. Humans kept predators as pets. Of course they did. Inside the building, she met more humans. A female named Dr. Laura Mitchell served as their biology expert. She began explaining Earth's ecosystem with the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. "We have about 8 million different species on Earth," she said. "Give or take a few million we have not discovered yet. The oceans alone contain more life than most planets we have observed." Korax made a choking sound. 8 million species, he repeated. Laura nodded. "Of course, most of them are trying to eat each other. That is just how life works here." She talked about venomous snakes that could kill with a single bite. She described parasites that lived inside other creatures and controlled their behavior. She mentioned diseases that had killed millions of humans throughout history, and through it all, she smiled. She was not afraid. She was proud. Soreth listened in growing horror. These beings did not survive their Deathworld by hiding from its dangers. They embraced them. They studied them. They conquered them. The briefing continued for hours. Soreth learned about earthquakes that shattered cities. She learned about tsunamis that drowned coastlines. She learned about volcanic eruptions that buried entire civilizations. And she learned that humans had survived all of it. They had rebuilt after every disaster. They had adapted to every threat. They had spread across their entire planet and made it their own. When the briefing finally ended, Daniel walked her back to the shuttle. "I hope you will stay longer," he said. "There is so much more we would like to share with you." Soreth looked at him. At his friendly smile. At his casual confidence. At the body that had been forged in the fires of a Class-15 Deathworld. "Yes," she said quietly. "I believe we will." She had come to Earth expecting to find primitive survivors clinging to life in a hostile environment. Instead, she had found something far more remarkable. She had found the masters of a Deathworld. The delegation remained on Earth for several weeks. Every day brought new revelations. Every discovery made the picture clearer and more terrifying. Ambassador Sarth sat in a conference room with Dr. Nathan Brooks, a human who specialized in military history. She had asked for a briefing on human conflicts. She was beginning to regret that decision. "We call it World War II," Nathan said. He pointed to images on a display screen. It lasted 6 years. Approximately 70 million people died. Sorith felt her breath catch. 70 million dead in a single conflict. Our entire species numbered less than 2 billion. And this was not your only war, she asked. Nathan laughed. It was not a cruel laugh, just one of dark amusement. It was not even our biggest war, proportionally speaking. The Mongol conquests killed a higher percentage of the world population. The colonization of the Americas killed even more, if you count the diseases. He continued talking. He described weapons that could level cities in an instant. He explained something called nuclear bombs, devices that split atoms themselves to release devastating energy. Humans had built thousands of these weapons. They had aimed them at each other. But you did not use them, Sorith said. After the first two, no, Nathan agreed. We came close a few times. But we chose not to destroy ourselves. Sorith thought about that. A species that could develop weapons of total destruction and then choose not to use them. That required something beyond intelligence. It required wisdom. Or perhaps just a very strong survival instinct. In another part of the facility. Security Chief Corax was receiving his own education. A Kurd, human female named Commander Katie Sullivan led him through a training exercise. She was smaller than most humans he had met, with short red hair and pale skin. She moved with the easy grace of a predator. The exercise was simple. Katie would try to pin Corax to the ground. He would try to stop her. She was 1/3 his size and had no armor or weapons. She put him on his back in 4 seconds. Corax stared up at the ceiling, struggling to breathe. His ribs ached where she had struck him. His arm was still tingling from the joint lock she had used. How? He managed to ask. Katie reached down and helped him up. Humans have been fighting each other for as long as we have existed, she explained. We have developed hundreds of different combat styles. Thousands of techniques. We study how bodies work so we can break them efficiently. Corax rubbed his shoulder. And you teach this to your children? Katie smiled. We start them young. It builds character. Later that evening, Sorith and Corax compared notes. They sat in their guest quarters, speaking in hushed tones even though they were alone. They're not what I expected, Corax admitted. I thought they would be desperate survivors, damaged by their environment. Instead, they are thriving. Sorith nodded. They did not just survive their Deathworld. They conquered it. They bent it to their will. She pulled up data on her tablet. Humans had domesticated predators to help them hunt. They had modified plants to produce more food. They had built structures that could withstand earthquakes and storms. When their environment tried to kill them, they found ways to fight back. And they had done all of this while constantly fighting each other, while dealing with diseases that could wipe out entire populations, while surviving ice ages and droughts and countless other disasters. There is something else, Corax said quietly. Something that concerns me. Sorith looked at him. Tell me. Their kindness is a choice. Sorith tilted her head. Explain. Corax leaned forward. When we arrived, they welcomed us with open arms. They have been patient and friendly. They have shared their knowledge freely. But Ambassador, I have seen how they treat threats. I have read their history. I have watched them train. He paused. His voice dropped even lower. If they decided we were enemies, they would destroy us without hesitation. Their friendliness is not weakness. It is a choice they make because they want to, not because they have to. Sorith understood what he was saying. Every peaceful gesture from the humans came from a position of strength. They were kind, because they chose to be kind. They could just as easily choose to be something else. Her communication device chirped. A message from the Galactic Council. She read it quickly, and her blood ran cold. The Council had received her reports. They understood what humanity represented, and now they were discussing what to do about it. Some council members wanted to establish formal relations. Others wanted to contain humanity before they developed faster-than-light travel. A few were even suggesting more permanent solutions. Sarth looked out the window at the human city below. Light sparkled in the darkness. Millions of beings lived their lives down there, unaware that powerful forces were debating their fate. She thought about Daniel Carter and his warm smile, about Laura Mitchell and her pride in Earth's deadly ecosystem, about Katie Sullivan and her casual lethality. These beings had survived everything their universe had thrown at them. They had faced extinction and chosen to live. They had built weapons of total destruction and chosen not to use them. The Galactic Council thought they could contain humanity. Sorth was beginning to suspect that was the most dangerous assumption anyone had ever made. The question was not whether humanity could survive first contact with the galaxy. The question was whether the galaxy could survive first contact with humanity. News of the Class-15 Deathworld spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Most species reacted with academic interest. A few expressed concern. But the Draxith Dominion saw opportunity. War Commander Thrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Endless Conquest. His fleet numbered 47 warships, each one capable of reducing a city to ash from orbit. He had conquered 11 worlds for the Dominion. He had never tasted defeat. The Galactic Union had blocked Draxith expansion for centuries. Their territory disputes remained unresolved. But this new discovery changed everything. Earth occupied a strategic position in the outer spiral arm. Its natives were pre-spaceflight primitives who had no formal protection under galactic law. If the Dominion could claim the system before the Union established relations, they would have a permanent foothold in contested space. Thrax had reviewed the survey data. Yes, the planet was classified as a death world. Yes, the natives had apparently survived there for millennia. But they had no fleet, no energy weapons, no shields. Their most advanced technology was barely capable of reaching their own moon. Against a proper military force, they would crumble. The Draxith fleet entered the solar system without Union authorization. They powered past the outer planets and took up position near Earth orbit. Thrax opened a broadcast channel on all frequencies the primitives used. "Beings of Earth," he announced. "I am War Commander Thrax of the Draxith Dominion. Your world now falls under our jurisdiction. You will surrender your governments to our authority. You will provide resources and labor as we require. Resistance will be met with total destruction." He cut the channel and waited. His tactical officers estimated the primitives would need several hours to organize any kind of response. Some species took days to accept the reality of conquest. The response came in 4 minutes. A Pasa, female voice crackled over the communication system. She spoke in clear, calm tones that carried no hint of fear. "DRX fleet. This is Commander Katie Sullivan of the United Earth Defense Initiative. You have entered our solar system without invitation. You have threatened our people. You have made a very serious mistake." Thrax laughed. His bridge crew joined him. A pre-space flight species was threatening the most feared military force in the Outer Rim. "You have no weapons that can harm us," Thrax replied. "You have no ships capable of combat. Surrender now, and some of you will survive." There was a pause. When Katie spoke again, her voice was ice. "We have spent our entire existence fighting to survive on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We have been watching your radio signals for decades. We have been preparing for this moment since before you knew we existed. And War Commander, we do not surrender. Thrax started to respond, but his tactical officer shouted a warning. Energy signatures were appearing across Earth's surface. Satellites that had been logged as communication arrays were unfolding into new configurations. Underground installations were opening. The primitives had weapons. Hidden weapons. Lots of them. The first wave of missiles launched from Earth's surface. They were crewed by galactic standards. Chemical propellants. Basic guidance systems. No energy shielding, but there were thousands of them. Thrax ordered his fleet to intercept. Point defense systems activated across all ships. Lasers burned missiles from the sky by the hundreds. His shields held easily against the ones that got through. Then the second wave launched. And the third. And the fourth. The humans were not trying to destroy his fleet with a single strike. They were overwhelming his defenses with sheer numbers. Each wave got closer. Each wave learned from the last. His tactical officer's voice rose in panic. Commander, their weapons are adapting. They are adjusting their trajectories based on our defensive patterns. They are learning in real time. Thrax watched his display as a missile slipped through a gap in his point defense coverage. It struck the Endless Conquest's shields directly. The explosion was massive. Far larger than it should have been for such a primitive weapon. His ship rocked violently. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Report, he demanded. The tactical officer's scales had gone pale. They have enhanced their warheads with radioactive materials. The radiation is disrupting our shield generators. Each hit weakens our defenses. Thrax stared at the display. The humans had built weapons specifically designed to counter galactic shield technology. They had never fought a space battle in their lives, but they had figured out his vulnerabilities within minutes. Another missile struck. Then another. Ships across his fleet reported damage. 3 vessels had lost shields entirely. One was venting atmosphere. On the communication channel, Katie Sullivan's voice returned. That was your one chance to leave, she said. Now we are just getting started. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Draxith fleet was broken. Half the ships were destroyed. The rest were crippled, barely able to maintain orbit. Thrax sat on his damaged bridge, surrounded by sparking consoles and injured crew. He had conquered 11 worlds. He had never imagined defeat. A human shuttle approached his flagship. It docked without asking permission. Armed humans in sealed suits boarded his ship and secured the bridge. Katie Sullivan walked in behind them. She was small compared to Draxith warriors. She should have looked weak. But Thrax saw her eyes, and he understood something terrible. These beings were not victims. They were not primitives who got lucky. They were predators. They had spent their entire existence hunting and fighting and killing. And they had just added his fleet to their list of conquered enemies. You have a choice, Katie said calmly. You can leave our system and never return. Or we can continue this conversation. I promise you will not enjoy option 2. Thrax looked at the destruction around him. At the impossible defeat his fleet had suffered. At the small human female who had orchestrated it all. We will leave, he said. Katie smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Good choice. The destruction of the Draxith fleet sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. Within days, every species with access to faster-than-light communication knew what had happened. A pre-spaceflight civilization had defeated one of the most feared military powers in known space, using weapons they built in secret. On a Class-15 Deathworld, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session on the station known as Unity Prime. Representatives from 300 member species filled the Great Chamber. Tension hung in the air like smoke. Ambassador Saurus stood at the central podium. She had returned from Earth specifically for this moment. The fate of humanity would be decided today, and she intended to have a voice in that decision. The floor was opened for debate. High Counselor Vrix of the Marthan Confederacy spoke first. His species had been in conflict with the Draxith for generations. He viewed any enemy of the Dominion as a potential ally. These humans have proven themselves capable of defending their territory, he said. They defeated a superior force through ingenuity and determination. We should welcome them as equals. Representative Koss of the Yelani Collective disagreed strongly. His species valued stability above all else. They're dangerous, Koss argued. They spent millennia fighting each other before we discovered them. They developed nuclear weapons and nearly destroyed themselves. And when faced with an external threat, they responded with overwhelming violence. What happens when they develop faster than light travel? What happens when they decide we are threats? The debate continued for hours. Some representatives called for immediate alliance. Others demanded containment or worse. Fear and hope clashed in equal measure. Finally, the chamber fell silent. It was Sora's turn to speak. She stepped forward and looked out at the assembled representatives. These were the leaders of galactic civilization. They commanded fleets and resources beyond counting. And they were afraid of a species that had not yet left its own solar system. I have walked on Earth, Sorith began. I have breathed their air and felt their gravity. I have met their people and studied their history. I believe I understand them in a way that many of you do not. She activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air, beautiful and terrible. Blue oceans and green forests, volcanic eruptions and massive storms. This is a Class-15 Deathworld, she said. The maximum danger rating our classification system allows. Everything on that planet is trying to kill everything else. The atmosphere is corrosive. The radiation is intense. The gravity is crushing. Predators and diseases and disasters are everywhere. She let the images cycle through. Hurricanes sweeping across continents. Earthquakes shattering cities. Creatures with teeth and claws and venom. By every model we have, sapient life should not exist there. The mathematics do not allow for it. And yet humans not only evolved on this world, they conquered it. They became its masters. Sorith changed the display. Now it showed human cities, gleaming towers and sprawling networks, art and music and literature, children playing in the deadly sunlight. They built civilization in conditions that would kill most of us within hours. They developed technology while fighting for survival every single day. And when we arrived, when strange beings from the stars appeared in their sky, they did not attack us. They welcomed us with open arms. Her voice grew stronger. Yes, they are dangerous. They have spent their existence learning to survive and fight and kill. But they have also learned something else. They have learned compassion, mercy, the value of cooperation. She pointed to another image. The crippled Draxith fleet. Rescue shuttles moving between damaged ships. When the battle ended, the humans rescued the surviving Draxith crews. They provided medical care to their enemies. They could have destroyed them all. Instead, they showed mercy. Sorith looked directly at Representative Koss. You fear what humanity might become. But I have seen what they already are. They are survivors who chose to be kind. Warriors who prefer peace. Predators who protect the weak. She turned to address the entire chamber. There are two other Class-15 Deathworlds in known space. One produced mindless organisms that consume everything they touch. The other produced nothing at all. Only Earth produced intelligent life. Only Earth produced a species that could look at the horrors of their world and choose to build something beautiful. The chamber was silent. Every representative was listening. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, Sorith continued. We face threats that no single species can handle alone. Rogue factions, hostile empires, natural disasters on a cosmic scale. We need allies who can stand beside us in the darkness. She straightened her posture. I have walked on a Deathworld. I have met its people. And I tell you now that we will never find better allies than humanity. Not because they are gentle, not because they are safe, but because they know what it means to fight for survival, and they chose to be something more than mere survivors. The vote was called. It was not unanimous, but it did not need to be. By a margin of 2-1, the Galactic Council voted to offer humanity full membership in the Union. 3 months later, Daniel Carter stood before the same chamber. He wore a simple dark suit that contrasted with the elaborate costumes of other species. His smile was warm and genuine. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, he said, "I accept your offer of friendship. We have spent our entire existence looking up at the stars and wondering if we were alone. Now we know the answer, and we are honored to join this community." He paused and looked around the chamber. "We come from a harsh world. We have not always been kind to each other. We have made terrible mistakes. But we have also done incredible things. We have loved and created and dreamed. We have fallen down and gotten back up again. And we have never, ever given up." His voice carried clearly through the vast space. "The galaxy is larger than we imagined. There are wonders and dangers beyond anything we expected. But we are not afraid. We were born on a Class-15 Deathworld. We survived everything it threw at us. And now we are ready to see what else the universe has to offer." Ambassador Sorath watched from the gallery as the chamber erupted in applause. Some representatives still looked uncertain. Some looked afraid. But most looked hopeful. Humanity had arrived. The galaxy would never be the same dot, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other dangers waited. Other challenges loomed. But for the first time in a very long while, the Galactic Union had allies who understood what it truly meant to survive. Earth was no longer alone, and that made all the difference.